So the brand has paid this person and has clothed them for this show. There is no way that this influencer after the show is going to be like, I hated it.
Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Hello, my darlings, it's Dion Dean. Welcome back to another video. I'm actually getting ready to meet a girlfriend for brunch today. And so I said, what a perfect opportunity to just sit down and have a fashion chat. And this is something that has been on my mind coming out of Fashion Month, seeing all that I saw, watching all the shows, looking at all the street style photography. And I follow a lot of British bloggers and a lot of Milanese because I love Milan Fashion Week. And so watching the shows and watching the commentary from influencers, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, and just taking it all in, I have some thoughts about Fashion Week. So let's get into it. But before we get started, I need to put on this brow, darling, and I cannot find my brow. Oh, here it is. All right, so I hope I'm not flashing y'all. I'm looking at my watch because my watch is like I can see what you guys see. All right. I don't want to have a conversation about is Fashion Week dead, because Fashion Week will never die. It has a purpose, right? But I want to talk about the influence of influencers at Fashion Week and what that means for the industry at whole. So I don't know what this is going to be entitled, but let's get into it. So let's talk about the purpose of Fashion Week. So Fashion Week historically is, or Fashion Month, I should say, Fashion Month, and that historically has taken place in New York, London, Milan, and Paris. We have now Copenhagen Fashion Week. I believe Singapore has a Fashion Week. I believe that Naomi Campbell is taking fashion to the continent of Africa. So there are different events that are popping up in Africa, in the Middle East, but traditionally it's been New York, London, Paris, Milan, and then Paris, okay? And so this is the time, I'm gonna put on I'm using my Anastasia. So this is the times of year, and of course we have cruise collection that happens. They meet a few times a year. But these are the times when merchants and editors, typically historically, why is this not going down? Merchants and editors get to see what the designers are showing for the spring, summer, autumn, winter seasons, okay? So typically when you say the fashion industry is typically merchants, store personnel, trend, like WGSN, we talked about WGSN, trend forecasters. This was historically their season and their time to go and review the shows, preview the shows, and see what designers are designing for the years to come, okay? That's what it's been historically. And so each year, New York is the center of American fashion. Parisian fashion is usually haute couture. London fashion, and Brexit kind of changes because a lot of the reason why London hasn't been that popular is because a lot of the brands actually went to Paris, right? But Paris is high sewing, and so those big brands, those heritage brands, are the ones that show in Paris. And Milan, I mean, Italy just has their own vibe, okay? But historically, this has been for buyers, specifically for buyers and trend forecasters and store personnel, to see preview the collections, to see what they want to carry in their stores, in their boutiques, for the upcoming seasons, okay? So what has happened now, not now, it's been happening over the past decade, right? With the influx of influencers and people that just have great fashion knowledge and fashion sense, the door has kind of been blown open to where they're now invited to the shows, right? And they're able to give their perspective as people who love, enjoy, and who do fashion really well. I'm gonna put on some concealer. These are tastemakers, and this has always been happening. And it's still happening, right? Typically, the tastemakers were the ones, and there are a few influencers that you can watch who are the tastemakers who spend a lot of money with the brand. Like if you spend a certain amount with with Chanel or Louis Vuitton, or and that happened. That's not just a show. That's for events. I can tell you right now, there's some events in South Florida. There are store events happening all the time at Vuitton. I've taken you to a few. If you're a high spender or someone who has a relationship with a sales associate, you're going to a show or you'll get a show invite. There are plenty of people at the shows who are high spenders or socialites for the brand. And they don't even have to be socialites. They can just be people that really love the brand, and that's where they put their money with that brand. They will get an invite to a show, okay? So it's not just influencers. It's people who spend a lot of money. But many times, influencers with that brand have spent a lot of money with the brand, right? So it's that they have influence, they're a socialite, but they've also spent a lot of money with the brand. So here's the thing about influencers. I want to preface this by saying that I am a fashion merchandising and retailing professor, and so this is coming from a classroom perspective, from a merchant perspective, not marketing, not promotion, strictly merchandising from the merchant's point of view, okay? Because I'm going to say some things and it may not line up with how you feel, and that's okay. That's why we're having a discussion. That's why I'm doing this video. The issue with having the influx of influencers to the point now where buyers, people who are spending money, who are selecting these items to put into a Bergdorf's, into a Saks, into a Holt Renfrew, to all these places, to the point where they are having trouble getting into shows and not being on the front row. That is dangerous, because they are the ones who make the decisions as to what goes in the stores so that the consumer can actually get to it, right? So influencers, from a marketing and promotion point of view, definitely need to be there because they expose their community to these brands, right? If your favorite follower is at Gucci, if they're at Vuitton, if they're at Ferragamo, or if they're at Coach, you're getting to see through their stories those shows before they even hit their YouTube channels or even their social media, right? So from a marketing and promotion point of view, absolutely. However, if the merchant isn't able to get that same point of view, the person who's actually buying these items to put into the store so that the consumer can get to it, that's the problem. And that's what's happening in the industry, right? And so definitely after a show, Lord, I need to put on up here chatting. I'm in the classroom. Professor Dean is in her element, honey. So what typically happens is that after, I'm using the Huda Beauty Rose Gold palette. So what typically happens after a show is that they will have a go-see. And this is where the merchant team, most likely, I don't know if, again, I haven't been in the buying office for over 20 years, but typically it'll be the buyer, the assistant buyer, the fashion director. If it's a luxury brand, the fashion director. It could be a divisional merchandise manager. It could be a VP. It could be, if you have a boutique, right? It could be the boutique owner. Like I said, divisional merchandise manager, general merchandise manager, the buyer, the buyer's assistant, the planner. All of them will go with their reports to the go-see, which is after the show, to actually look at the garments, right? Everything that comes down the runway doesn't get produced. What gets produced, again, this is the danger, what gets produced is what the buyers want, is what the merchants want. If the merchants don't want it, it doesn't get produced. Let me say that again. What actually gets, everything comes down the runway. There's a breadth of items that come down the runway. Not everything gets produced. What gets produced are the items that merchants want for their stores. In addition, if there's say Anna Wintour or her team or different editors, because Anna Wintour is the editor, but there are editors under her that will go to the go-sees. If there are items that they want for editorial purposes, they can take that sample. They may produce and they may put it in a Bergdorf's, or back when Barney's was in operation, they may put it in a Barney's. But merchants and editors, if they don't want it, it doesn't get produced. So you can be the top of 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 the influencer chain. Doesn't matter. If the buyers don't want it and the editors don't want it, it's not being produced. Now, if you are an influencer and they give you a sample piece, for the most part, that sample piece is something that they know is going to be in the stores, so that when your community sees it on you, they can go and purchase it. You get what I'm saying? So the danger with the buyers and the merchants and the editors not being able to get a first-hand look and not see those pieces, it's a danger to the brand. That's why people ask me, am I going to Fashion Week? I have no reason to go to Fashion Week. I have no I have no pull. I have no I don't want to say I don't have pull. That's not what I want to say. Me going to a Fashion Week is not going to bring that brand any more money. I'm gonna say that. I'll say that honestly for myself. I can go and enjoy a show, absolutely, but what's the purpose? I'm not a buyer. Number one, most of these brands aren't doing plus size anyway, so what am I going there to do? For marketing promotion purposes, possibly. I've been to, if you guys have been with me for any amount of time, and I think I did a video of the last time I was at Fashion Week, and I was a beauty and style expert for Good Morning Texas. And so it was a benefit for me to be behind the scenes at the Bagley Mishka show. I'll leave the link somewhere up here. It was a benefit for me to be at that show. So the second danger of influencers at Fashion Week, I'm going to say this might trigger some of you, okay? No, I don't think it'll trigger you, because we have great conversations on my channel. And now I'm going into the Kim K palette. I hope I'm not flashing you. For the most part, influencers are not objective. Influencers are not objective. If you, and I say this about the big shows, right? Gucci has a new creative director. The brand pays whatever X influencer $10,000, $5,000, $100,000, whatever they pay them. I don't know what they're paying these people, right? So the brand has paid this person and has clothed them for this show. There is no way that this influencer after the show is going to be like, I hated it. When you ask them, what did you think about the show? Man, it was all right. I didn't like it. No, they're not going to be objective. So you're not going to get an objective opinion from someone who's being paid to go to the shows. It's almost like I invite you to my home. I pay you to come to my home. I dress you to come to my home and eat my food. And then there's somebody outside that, how was dinner at Dion's? Are you going to say, oh, it was horrible? You're going to be like, oh, it was, even if you hated it, just out of gratitude for being invited to my house, you'd be like, it was a pleasant experience. You may lie your way through it, but you're not going to be like, oh, it was horrible. Like, you're not going to do that. Let me shift my wig. So that is the only, I'm just using a black liner, which I probably shouldn't. It's too harsh for brunch, but that is the problem that I foresee with influencers going to shows, is that they're not going to be objective. Whereas when some of these buyers, and like if you ever watch Corinne Rutfeld, when she goes to shows, she's talking about line, color, fit, draping, and I've seen her come out of shows and been like, we saw some things from last year. Like, she's going in and not being rude about it, but she's having an educated conversation, other than, oh, it was wonderful, it was great, it was lovely. A lot of times, I'm not gonna say a lot of times. I have not seen any influencer come out of a show and say it was awful. Case in point, the Coach show. If you're in my inner circle, then we've had this conversation. So you're gonna be like, oh, here she goes with Coach. I was so excited about that Coach show. I just knew I was gonna see some color leather, some beautiful color, pastel, spring, summer, Coach leather realness. Coach is the fashion house of the Americas, okay? Coach. I love the creative director. I actually did a paper on him for my graduate studies, for my graduate certificate. I love his work and what he's done for the brand, okay? That show to me was No. I was so disappointed in that show. I wanted to see color. I wanted to see draping. I wanted to see what Coach was going to do for American leather. I wanted them to compete with Ferragamo. I wanted them to compete with Hermes. I wanted them to compete with Fendi, with these leather houses across the globe. And it fell flat to me. When they interviewed people coming out of the Coach, there were a few influencers that went to Coach. When they, after the show, when they were talking about the Coach show, they were talking about how innovative it was, how beautiful it was. And I'm like, did we watch the same show? I didn't see. As a matter of fact, it was dark leathers. It was grunge. It was very reminiscent of like Marc Jacobs in the 90s. There was nothing innovative about this show. But these content creators and influencers were, I'm not going to say lying because fashion is subjective, right? So everybody's going to have their own experience. But I was like, I didn't see what y'all was seeing. I didn't see what y'all was seeing. However, Hermes show, the Hermes show, ask my husband because I was belly aching. The Hermes show is what, I'm going to leave a link to the shows down there, down in the description box. The Hermes show, I'm putting on NARS today, was everything. Oh, I didn't put on, oh Lord, I didn't put on sunscreen. No, I'm going to be in South Florida sun. Was everything that I wanted the Coach show to be. Everything. The Ferragamo show, everything I wanted the Coach show to be. Pastel leathers, draping of leathers, tucked leathers, leather skirts, pleated skirts. I mean, this is spring, summer. They did have but colors, draping, greens, yellows. Hermes was had these reds and these purples and these. And when these people came out of the Coach show, I was like, I almost want to throw in my fashion. I was like, y'all can keep this. Anyway, to me, that's a huge danger because, and again, they're not the merchants. They're not the ones that are making these decisions of what's going to be in store and what's going to be out of store. But if people are following you for objectivity, and I feel like influencers, if you have a certain amount of following, well, if you're an influencer, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Instagram, you are a journalist. I feel like you are a journalist, and it's okay. And I get it. You're being paid by the brand. I get it. But you're a journalist. So give us some objectivity. That's the part that just felt like, I mean, I was just like, what is going on? Put it this way, every show was not great. Every piece was not great. Every brand is not great. Like I put up a post in my Instagram, you know, Kering now has, every creative director is now a white male. It's not fabulous. Like, it's not fabulous. It's not great. It's not amazing. It's not forward. It's not forward thinking. It's like, so I think that yeah, as I line my lip with the Sephora color, what is this? It's a knock on wood. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling about fashion, or my take on fashion. I don't even know how long this video has been, but yeah, I was not pleased this fashion month, and I felt like we could do better, and I felt like I saw a lot of influencers and a lot of celebrities, but your margins are not made by the celebrities and the influencers. Your margins are made by people like you and I who, right, wrong, or indifferent, will save up and get that special piece, or, you know, get that special bag or shoe or blazer or dress, or like you and I make up that consumer base. And so if the people who are supplying us can't see the stuff to give us the goodies, then, you know, as a merchant, I was just like, That's horrible. It's horrible for you and I. It's horrible for the brand. It's horrible for my lip that's peeling, but I'm too lazy to do a sugar scrub. All right, my darlings. I'm ready for brunch. What did I use on my lips? Sephora Knock on Wood, Maybelline, I'm going to leave it in the description box, Dreamer, and this gloss in Ice. And so I will leave a link again to all the products that I used. If you like this kind of fashion conversation, again, this is an educated conversation based on, this is something that we would talk about in the classroom. So it's just a place for me to talk now that I'm not in the classroom, but I'm really going to be looking into the fashion lab so that once a week we can get together and have fashion conversation. For those of you who want it, for those of you who don't care, hey, hey. But for those of you who are fashion people who do want to have conversations about the fashion business, not design, because I don't know much about design, but I know about the fashion, about the business of it, about the merchandising side. So yeah, if you like this kind of commentary, then please like so that I know. I won't know unless you tell me that you want more of this type of content. So let me get ready to go. I may go scrub my lip because it's looking quite ashy in here. All right, my darlings. Mwah. Have a great day.
Go.